Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Matthew back with part two of the 1990 WCW Galoob review. In the first video, we did look at the first six characters, seven figures. We also included the two-man set as well. So in this video, we're looking at the last six wrestlers and the last two-man set that I do have available for Series 1. And either today I'll keep going and do the rest of Series 2, or I'll take a break and come back at a later time and complete Series 2 of the UK exclusives. So let's begin with the very first figure released from Series 1 in 1990. Now, this is actually a really nice card and actually displays pretty well, considering that this could very well be the worst figure ever created. So I think that a lot of people might get the impression that I am not a fan of Ron Simmons, and to be honest, I really don't know a lot, if anything, about the character of Ron Simmons himself. I know he's transitioned to like different characters in like WWF, like Farouk. I've heard that name, and I'm pretty sure he's gone by other names as well. Within the platform and everything, but I don't know too much about the wrestler. The wrestler aside has nothing to do with it. It's all about the action figure, and the action figure is straight trash. Easily the worst action figure ever created. You can hate on the Ric Rude LJN figure all you want. This figure is just as bad. The only thing that I like better about this figure compared to the LJ and Rick Rude is that at least this one gives you a pose where he can at least drop an elbow. So he does have one single fighting attribute. That is about it. I had this figure as a kid. Did I use him? Absolutely I did. Now when you're a kid and you're 7 years old, 9, 11, however old you are, and you have like maybe 15 or so Hasbro figures, maybe another half a dozen of Galoob, and you're putting together these wrestling matches or these Royal Rumbles, and you're piecing together all the wrestling figures you possibly can. Who are you grabbing? You're grabbing whatever character you can find laying around the house. That means you're finding Ghostbuster action figures. You're finding Thundercats. You're finding, I don't know, what else did we use? Rubber figures, Marvel characters, and, Bigfoot, and, stuff like that. So you use it because you have it available. As a small statue that you would put on display, I like it. It looks nice. It looks super cool. But it's a terrible playable figure. It is an action figure, and that's the key terminology to take away from an action figure. Those words mean play or for play, and you can't play with this. If you're sitting there and you're trying to wrestle with these guys, this is how we used to pretend to do a body slam. Why? Because you can't really do anything else, and I really don't know what else you could possibly do. Like I said, you drop an elbow, that's pretty much it. And this is what kills me about collecting these figures nowadays. Ron Simmons is probably my most hated figure ever, and he also happens to be one of my most expensive MOC collections or acquisitions. And I'm trying to think. I know I paid at one point when I first acquired my Series 2 UK figure. I think I paid like $125 for it, and to this day that kills me. For this one, I don't know. I think I got him for like $150 or something, but I could have gotten him for cheaper. I don't remember, to be honest. But there are so many other figures I paid far less money for, and the card itself is incredible. In fact, the card is about as mint of any card figure I have. Looks amazing on card. It's fine, but the figure is terrible. Part of the tag team of Doom. Again, I'm not familiar with that tag team. So, during my just concluded tag team tournament, there were a couple issues with this figure. I had the Galoob Tag Team of Doom, and I had a Galoob 2-ups of from Ram Treasures with the LJN rubber figures of Doom. Both figures were removed first time go because Butch Reed had to deal with this as a partner, and you really can't do anything with this figure. So, Ron Simmons to me is one of those guys that kind of kills the Galoob line as a whole, unfortunately. Next up, as I mentioned, is the Butch Reed figure. Now, Butch Reed is right there alongside Sid Vicious and Barry Windham among not just the most aesthetically pleasing figures, but the best play pose possible. He kind of reminds me of like a SD Jones, pose from LJN. So that gives it another added bonus. And I didn't even actually think about that until I just looked at the figure right now. So, Sid Vicious kind of gives you that Big John stud from Series 1 LJN. Barry Windham gives you that Series 2 Greg Valentine LJN. And from Series 3 SD Jones, this Butch Reed, you talk about 3 of my top 10 all-time favorite LJN figures, and go figure that, 3 of my top 10 figures, and here you have Vicious, Windham, and Butch Reed being my top 3 favorite Galoob figures. So I'm telling you, the pose means absolutely everything to me, and this is fantastic. The overall, now this one ain't in the best. I have a few of these figures, so I might want to swap this one out with one with better coloring. You would think for my personal collection, I'd want to try and get one with as mint as possible, but you know what? Having one on card, that's your mint figure, so I really don't need one that's more perfect or pristine. But man, this was an important one as well. And here was another very expensive acquisition. Because I love the pose more on this one, this is one of those figures that, yes, I am willing to pay up a little bit more to acquire the right figure. And again, the right figure is worth it. This was a really good one. So, let's see. Clothesline, Power Slam, favorite holds, one of the Doom Boys. Let's see, does Ron Simmons, yep. Same thing on Ron Simmons' card. So, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons from Doom. Now, I don't have the tag team 2-pack of these guys. Anyone knows anyone that's selling them, let me know, because I will definitely be in on that one. Next one up. Now, a very common figure. You're going to find Rick Steiner all over the place on eBay or whatnot. Normally you can get him for around $50 to $80, depending on the seller. And, of course, condition, just like anything else, is always going to be a big one. Oddly enough, he's only 5'11". I think that's pretty interesting. Flying, what does that say? Tardaki? I don't know what that is. Favorite holds, belly to belly suplex. So, I talked about Ric Flair in the last video, where a lot of your Galoob figures have this hunched over, legs spread apart, arms spread apart fighting pose. The Steiner brothers are one of those tag teams I did have as a kid. Whether we got them on single card or dual card, I can't remember. I'm guessing single card. It makes the most sense. Rick Steiner. I would say I actually like the Rick Steiner figure a little bit better. I think he's a little bit more playable than Ric Flair, even though he is basically identical for the most part in playability. What I really love about this figure, and same thing with kind of like my LJN customs, with the headgear, they give you kind of like this old school, mat to the floor, high school amateur type of type of old school wrestling, which I really love. So with the singlet, the headpiece and everything, this gives you what I classify kind of like as real wrestling, whereas your modern day wrestling and everything, it's scripted. It's more acting than it's more about being an actor than it is sports related. So this is just a great figure. Is it like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10? No. It still could be better. I don't know if I'm ready to classify it as like a 5 out of 10 or anything. But it could be hovering around the 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 mark. Perhaps 7 out of 10. Maybe I'll go higher. I don't know. It's definitely one of the elite figures from the Galoob line. But when you're comparing it to some of my other favorite figures, obviously that comparison is going to make its value go down a whole lot more. Is it a must-have? Absolutely. If you're looking for certain figures from the Galoob line and you don't care about picking them all up, I would actually recommend the UK exclusive. I mean, I like the color scheme better, and obviously the value is there. So if you do have to get a Rick Steiner, I would always go for the Series 2. And Rick Steiner on single card. And then we go to his brother, Scott Steiner. Oddly enough, as a kid, I actually really enjoyed the Scott Steiner figure. And then I think as an adult, it's silly me, because as an adult, I can't stand this figure. It's weird. I played the heck out of this figure as a kid. I loved this figure as a kid. But maybe it's because I was a fan of the Steiners, even though I didn't really have the opportunity to watch him too much on WCW. And of course, a little bit more when they transitioned to WWF. But because we didn't really have that many toys, and this was one of the better ones, I got a lot of use out of it. But the pose just is not there for me as an adult. And it's funny that I say that, because I still have the same mindset today that I did as a child, meaning that what I enjoyed with action figures as a kid, I still have the same preferences nowadays. Like, I still covet play poses today the same way I coveted play poses as a kid. So, obviously there's things that I value nowadays that I wouldn't have never considered as a kid, but Scott Steiner, he just isn't one of them. This is another one of those figures that is mediocre to me. I would classify probably 4 out of 10, maybe, if that, 3 out of 10. It's just not a good figure. So Random Treasures, they've made a lot of Galoob 2-ups, in rubber form, and they created a Mr. Perfect utilizing a Scott Steiner body. Mr. Perfect, great overall design. I like the head mold and everything. I think what they were trying to do originally was probably they were trying to go for a Scott Steiner, and maybe they couldn't get the Scott Steiner head right or something, because the hair kind of, even with the mullet and everything, it still kind of blends in really well with that figure, with that Mr. Perfect figure. And for whatever reason, instead of going with Scott Steiner, they created Mr. Perfect. And when you look at all of the follow-ups, the Zeus, which, they utilized as an Arn Anderson body. And later on, they actually came out with Arn Anderson 2-up. They could have made the Steiner brothers already. They haven't done so. And, Scott Steiner could have been long made. I mean, all they have to do is switch out the head. So that's kind of curious that the Steiner brothers, among all of the Galoob 2-ups, haven't been made yet. Scott Steiner, among the Galoobs, not one of my favorites. In fact, he's one of my least favorite figures. Is he necessary to complete the Steiner Brother tag team? Yeah. The very first 2-pack I ever purchased off eBay, and it only cost me about $80. Now, I haven't seen so many of these 2-packs go for in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I saw like a buy it now on this for like $80. And I think it was on auction for like, I don't know, let's say $50. $40. I don't remember. And then it was like a buy it now $80. And I saw that, I'm like, shoot, I better jump the gun. I better not slack off and be cheap on this. And did I buy it now? Bought it. And I don't know if I overbid or overpaid. I don't think so, considering all the other prices. But to get this 2-pack for $80, I still feel like I did pretty well. And on single cards, they go for about $40, $50, $60. So I think one way or the other, it's gonna balance out. So I'm happy with it. So they got single cards, they got dual cards, and this is the last of my Series 1 2-packs. Alright, so next up, so we've looked at Ron Simmons, Butch Reed, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner. Next up is Brian Pillman. Flying Brian Pillman. So, former Cincinnati Bengal, and it's why you get that Cincinnati Bengal football player or football colors on his trunks. I did actually have the Brian Pillman figure as a kid, and this was actually one of my more favorite Galoob figures as a kid. Now, even though this is very similar to the Sting figure, with the hand straight up, I don't really like the Sting figure, but I actually love the Brian Pillman figure. The open hands kind of suck, but I don't know. I still like it better than the Sting, and in fact, among Series 1 figures, I think this is like a top 5 figure for me. I don't know. I'd probably rate Sid Vicious number 1, Barry Windham 2, Butch Reed 3, so I'd probably put Brian Pillman number 4 among my figures. Maybe Rick Steiner number 5. And that, again, that's just among Series 1. Obviously, that would all change up if you start including Series 2 figures. But so I did talk to the folks over at Ram Treasures, and I was inquiring about, hey, when are they going to come up with a Brian Pillman 2-up? Because I really want to get the Blue Trunks Series 2 exclusive to add to the collection. And, with the little blue Puma, whatever it is, Bengal cat, I'll call it, on his knee pads and everything. And they said that was actually going to be something that's going to be coming up in the next month or so. So, is that something that's going to happen in the very near future? I'm hopeful. And let's see, what is the 28th, Wednesday, June 28th. So I talked to him maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And so we're hovering on a month since I talked to him. So it's let's say by mid-July. I'm hopeful by that time frame. So if you guys are fans of Brian Pillman, or if you want a Galoob 2-up in rubber form for LJN style, be on the lookout for that. Go on Etsy and be able to check them out. Brian Pillman again, awesome figure. Absolutely love this. And trying to think what else do I have of his. The Hollywood Blondes with Steve Austin, was that with Brian Pillman? I only seen that tag team like one time, and I think I seen him on like Jack's Superstars, and I have that box set, but again, that wasn't something I watched, so I really don't remember them together. I just figured I'd bring him up since I really don't have anything to talk about among history. A lot of these figures, I don't really know anything about the characters. There were very little about the characters. My history is strictly with the figures themselves. Brian Pillman, though, he is one of my favorites. Alright, so that's number 5, and let me show you the card one more time. Alright, Last Man from Can-Am. Z-Man Tom Zank. So I know a lot of people have noticed this, and anytime I've like watched people do like reviews or something, and I've seen a few videos where people show their video. It seems like everybody that does a review on Galoob, they always have a Tom Zank carded figure. So it must be like a very common figure or a very common carded figure. They always make fun of, you know, his chin in this photograph, and I don't so much laugh at the chin. I just kind of laugh at the way that his lips are curled like that. Like, he does look like he's constipated or something, though. My poor guy. Didn't give him no time to, like, smile or nothing. What do I know about Tom Zank? For this character, very little. In the 80s, I know he was in the WWF. He and Rick Martel were tag team partners. Can-Am, part of the Can-Am tag team. What they call it, Can-Am Express, were they? And he ended up jumping ship, signing on with WCW, and of course became Z-Man Tom Zank. WWF scrambled, brought in Tito Santana. You got Strike Force. That to me is about all I know or can remember about this character, unfortunately. Don't really know too much about this guy. And again, you know, that's just, you know, something that you learn over time, kind of collecting. I don't really remember this guy wrestling myself. When I first started getting these figures in, I thought this was like a top 5 figure for me. But as I started getting more and more figures in, you know, he fell further and further down that list. And as I look at the figure, it's subpar. Again, another 5 out of 10, maybe 4 out of 10 figure. Not that good. Not really playable. I mean, he does a small clothesline, maybe throws, you know, a punch or whatever. That's about it. Can't really do anything else. Maybe get somebody in like a DDT or something. So DDT, punch, and a clothesline. Can't really throw him over your shoulder or anything. I mean, basically, you can only fight with him on the right side. Left side is basically useless other than dropping an elbow. As far as a displayable figure, meh. For a playable figure, terrible. If you want to use this for play, you wouldn't have any enjoyment. This is terrible. Like I said, most of what Galoob has created as far as playability goes is below average figures. There's only 3 or 4 figures here that I rate, you know, high. 3 figures that scored 10 out of 10 for me, and Brian Pillman, which is probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me. Other than that, the rest of them are 5 out of 10 or lower. So, and Tom Zank, no exception. So that does conclude all of Series 1. This is your 1990s release. Once we do look at your 1991 Series 2 UK exclusives, a lot of the figures are going to be re-releases with repaints, but you do introduce a lot of new, incredible figures. Problem is, you get figures like Sting with entrance gear. Absolutely amazing. One of my favorite figures of the line. But again, a bad play pose. But a figure like that, to me, it's more commemorative than playable. With the other Stings, I don't think any fan would really want to use that commemorative piece for play anyways. So, I think that's it for now. I made 2 videos today. I think I'm going to take a break. Probably make those Series 2 releases at a later day. So hopefully this is going to be enough for now. And it will cover me for the next 4 days or so if I release a video every couple days. Alright, thank you so much for watching, everybody. And I will talk to you soon. Goodbye, everyone.